The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Hi everyone, welcome to Nova Radio Northeast and Newcastle Fans TV. Not your usual programme because we are actually currently down in London on Sunday, so at the time of this recording I'm with fellow guest Rob, who is on the radio show on a weekly basis with myself and the rest of the lads. So because this is a special video that we're doing for our channel and of course Nova Radio Northeast, we're going to talk about just the past 7 days news. There's reaction from the Emirates, from the rest of the gang, including myself, later on today, so stay tuned for that. Let's begin with obviously the news, and we're going to take you all the way back to Monday, Rob.
Yep.
Well, actually, how are you doing, first of all?
I am very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm alright. It's been a quiet week. I've been working and all that, and it's nice to get on the weekend. It's nice to get some football back for a change.
Yeah. Apologies that I couldn't be on the radio show last week. It was because of Storm Kiara. I know if you were in the northeast, you can legitimately say what storm, but yes, the trains were cancelled and sort of playing up because of the storm. So yeah, I had to pull the plug on it.
Hence why it was only me and for some guests last week. But big thanks to Sharky, to Peter and Ivan chipping in, helping out last week. So we're going to take you back then. And of course, get your comments in the live chat, and of course the comments if you're watching the rerun. So this is just the past news. Later, we'll get reaction from the under-23 game where me and Rob have obviously attended earlier on. And of course, we'll have a chat around the combined 11. How many Newcastle players will get in your Arsenal 11?
Yep.
Dan Barlaser, he was rumoured, Rob, he's obviously hit the form this season, scored a few goals. A regular now, a little bit older than Sean, he's 23. There's rumours going around in the media this week saying that he may get another contract because he's performing well, but he's a free agent in the summer. What do you do with him?
I think it's a very difficult one. It's one of those where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because he's a boyhood Newcastle fan, he's a boyhood Newcastle player. However, he has never really made that step up to the first team. All he's done in first team wise is make a few cameo appearances, so you really do question, is his future as a football player really at Newcastle United? And I think what might be best for his career is that if he might just move on. I say that really reluctantly, because at the same time, yeah, he might be performing well at the under-23s, but central midfield is an area where I think we're jam-packed enough as it is already. Do we really need another addition in centre midfield? And even if we do, even if you think the answer is yes to that question, do you really think Dan Barlaser is the one to sort of fill that void?
You're not qualified for being under the age category either, even if you were to list him next season. And
he would need to be registered, wouldn't he? So
yeah. And it seems that the two Longstaffs have jumped ahead of him. Obviously, I want Dan to do well. I
feel for him because he has been pretty good at under 23 level, pretty consistent these past few years. But I think what's best for him is to try and find another club.
And that would be heartbreaking for him. He went to school with my brother. So obviously I wanted him to do well, because I'm sick of hearing all this NE29 from Johnny and Kyle's, like their catchphrase. So come on, you went NE39 he would have been now. He's back in Roland's Guild. But yeah, with Dan Barlaser, look, he's at that age now where it'll be heartbreaking for him to leave the club. It really will. But he's had a fantastic season. Do you give him another year and see how he gets on in the Championship? That's probably the last resort, I think, for Dan, and I want him to do well. He follows us, of course, over on Twitter as well. Yep. Another one of the former under-20, well, I say former, he still is a Newcastle player, but we'll watch this space with that, but we're not massively hopeful. I think me and Rob can both agree on that one as well. I want to talk about the next topic as well, is this winter break.
Yeah.
It was a bit strange watching a few games last week and Newcastle not involved. I think there's pros and cons to it. I think the timing of it, Rob, is
very
wrong.
Strange,
I think it's wrong. I think it should be immediately in the new year.
Yeah, I think when you talk about winter break, yes, you'd think that's when it should be. I mean, you look at the Bundesliga in Germany; they have it over the Christmas.
They get 4 weeks off, don't they?
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks off, starting at the week starting at Christmas. And as lovely as Christmas is to sort of have that time and football hooked up to our veins 24/7, pretty constantly. it is really draining on the players. It's really draining on you as well. You're having to get videos out constantly. I think if you're going to have a winter break, you're going to have it then.
I have to agree, because I think we've needed it probably a lot more, because we've had obviously the Christmas period, we've had the injuries, and then on top of that we've progressed in the FA Cup, but not just that, we've had 2 replays on top of the normal schedule.
Yeah. Big difference between us and the likes of Man City is that a team like Man City can easily cope with a barrage of fixtures. They have strength and depth, whereas we don't. Yeah. We want to put our best team out, but realistically our best players got injured during that time period because they're playing so much football, and that is no fault of Bruce's, in my opinion, whatsoever. So I think they need to sort out the timing of it. Entertainment value, though, I was very much in favour of what Chris Wilder said.
What was that?
Is that do the fans take a break from football? So he sort of wants it to keep going, but it is what it is. On the plus side, however, you have to say that week break certainly came at a good time for us, because Joe Linton got injured against Oxford, and we were sort of at a bit of a loss when he came off, because we didn't have a fit striker. I don't think we still have a fit striker.
That's right. So obviously this has been filmed going out on the Sunday, and we've still only got one striker, first team striker who's fit.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, last weekend, Joe Linton would not have been able to play at all. We would have been really stuck if we were going to play last weekend. So I think the timing of it for us personally was good, but overall I'm not in favour of.
I think it's a good thing that the winter break has come. I would agree the timing isn't great, but I think it's what the Premier League, because the Premier League have talked about it, the FA have talked about it, players have talked about it, managers, coaches, directors, etc. The timing.
To make something clear, I wouldn't want to have a 4-week break like they do in the Bundesliga.
Too long, that.
They have to do it because there's only 18 teams there, therefore only 34 matches in a season, whereas a 2-week break might be something.
I think 4 weeks is too long, because it takes you a while to get back into it again.
Yeah. It's a bit like trying to start the whole season afresh again, isn't it?
It's like another pre-season.
Stiff limbs and exactly.
And obviously the Premier League and the FA restricted them from playing, world pre-season, mid-season friendlies this time around, because Newcastle historically have done it. Once we've gone out the FA Cup, you've been over to Spain. We've played people like Lille, Strom and so on, and we've played what was the Russian team, CSKA, last year as well. This year that's been restricted. They're not allowed to do that. I think it's a good thing. You look at how much work, for example, Miguel Miron puts into his game. Him going to Dubai with Florian Lejeune, I think Florian Lejeune was over there. I've seen a lot of the players, a lot of them went over the States. DeAndre Yedlin went back home, Longstaffs were over there. It just, you need a holiday, and people say, they shouldn't because they get paid X, Y and Z. Yes, they're only working 4 or 5 hours a day, but if we kept doing, for example, this every single day, the same routine every single day, it's mentally and physically draining, isn't it? And you need a break from work. Effectively, that's what they're doing, it's work.
Yes, I mean, they might earn a 5-figure sum on a weekly basis, but they are still human at the end of the day. So, I
have to agree. I think it's a good thing for the winter break. Timing sucks. Does it help England? Well, maybe in some extent, because obviously the Euros are coming up in the summer, and obviously the nation will go mad for England, because obviously there's no Premier League games. I see what the Premier League were trying to do. They're trying to do a mention of the Euros, that televising every game one after another to try and keep the fans engaged. And it's all about money, of course it is, don't get me wrong, but if you had 5 games just on a Saturday, nothing, then fans will obviously switch off, and there'll be a lack of interest. Obviously this weekend Arsenal played Newcastle, of course. There's a few more games on the TV. That's why you see BT having different time slots to kick-offs and so on. But like we say, I think it's a good thing. Rob agrees on that, just the timing probably needs tweaked straight away to the new year for me. The under-23s, of course, we'll be talking about them a couple of times. On Monday, they defeated West Brom. They're on a great bit of run. We talked about Ben Dawson in the radio show last week as well, that he's been in charge since Neil Redfern's went away, and they're starting to slowly pick up results. And they beat West Brom away from home 1-0 in the Premier League Cup. They're sitting second behind West Brom. I think they've got a game left, and they should qualify, and I think they will. Tom Allen again, that lad Rob, he can't stop scoring for the kids, can he?
He has been in excellent form so far, and I was really chuffed for him when he got his senior debut against Oxford in that replay. want to see more of him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can give in future games. Of course, the rest of the season is going to be difficult, very difficult for him to get a game because the FA Cup matches are going to get harder. There's no such thing as an easy league game. So I think next season is going to be a really important year for him, for his career, and trying to maybe start knocking on the door of a first team place.
Or at least get on loan.
Oh yeah, it's all about trying to get regular football, get that movement in the legs going.
But Ben Dawson, we're winning games. We're starting to win games.
He does best, isn't he?
Why was he moved up? We've talked about this a few times. Why was he moved upstairs?
Yeah, I said it before, I'll say it again. If it's not broken, don't fix it. It might have been, but then again, it might have been something that he wanted, he had preference over, but then of course got drafted back in because of the situation with the coaches. So I like Ben Dawson. I think he's a terrific coach, and I want him to keep doing what he does best. Don't want him to leave that position.
Never do I. He's doing a great job. He came from the foundation, of course, promoted to the main club as well. We'll talk more about the under-23s because we've got a reaction from the game against Sunderland on Friday night, so we'll come back to that as well. David Ginola, of course, he was back on the Tyneside of late as well, doing a few bits with the foundation, teaching kids if someone has a cardiac arrest or a heart attack and so on, because obviously he suffered from that. But I wanted to touch upon a quote. We've got it on the socials, of course, but I wanted to touch upon when in the second season, obviously we know in Keegan's second season, that is, and obviously it was Kevin Keegan's birthday on Friday, so happy birthday, King Kev. David Ginola claimed that Barcelona, when Bobby Robson was there in, would have been 97, this would have been, no, 96, the summer of 96. Bobby Robson came in and wanted David Ginola. And obviously David Ginola has turned around and said to Keegan, you've got to let me go, it's Barcelona, I'm 29 years of age, you've got to let me go, this is me big shot. Barcelona came over a small bid. David Ginola said that, but then came to 6 million, mind you 6 million in 96 is a lot of money, but then doubled that at 12 million, and Keegan just wouldn't let him go, because he's a fabulous talent.
Keegan had ambition. Keegan wanted to try and build the world.
He brought in Shearer that summer.
Yeah. He wanted to create Newcastle United as a team of world beaters. Him and Sir John Hall in that partnership there. It was brilliant in terms of ambition. There's no doubt that the ambition was there, and it must have been really heartbreaking for Ginola to be declined that dream move to work with one of the world's best managers, to play for one of the world's best teams.
But they're both Newcastle legends, Keegan and Robson.
Keegan and Robson, of course. Ginola, if that story is true, I'm really grateful that he ended up staying, whether that was against his will or not. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because
the reason why I'm bringing this up, obviously Keegan leaves in the new year, and then we'll say Kenny Dalglish come in. Whatever you think of Dalglish, Shearer speaks very highly of him. Just didn't fancy David Ginola, and we've seen Ferdinand leave, we've seen Beardsley leave, Ginola leave. A lot of our attack and flair was ripped, but David Ginola leaves for Spurs and goes on to be Spurs Player of the Year, and they signed him for 3 million. Yeah. That must have been really difficult to take. Of course, that was before my time as a fan. That must have been really difficult to take. That was sort of your era. Not your age, of course, but that is your era. I'm getting stick for my age. I was just a Ben back then. I was only 8 or 9 back then, but yeah. 3 million, man, for a talent like that. It's just, and obviously we can go on, and that's for another video and another show for Nova Radio, where we talk about the Dalglish coming in and ripping the team up. But he did introduce the kids back at the team. But yeah, that was an interesting one. I want to move on to the takeover. Yes, I know everyone gets sick of it. Yeah. I'm sure a regular fan, David Waller, will be in the live chat asking about the takeover. For people who are listening on Nova Radio, David is a firm believer of the word takeover, and he mentions this, and he creates second accounts and third accounts and mentions the takeover non-stop. So we'll talk about the takeover just for you, or the lack of takeover. Got a bit quiet, Rob. Yeah. Very quiet, and the only real piece of news of late this week is that the Wall Street Journal say that Carla Di Bello actually approached the Saudis in 2019 as a, what do you call it, a go-to guy, which is not a guy, she's a very attractive lady, I must say, as a middlewoman, advisory role. Help me out here, Rob, what I'm trying to say. are they clutching at straws, the media?
Yeah, it's not really news when you think about it. Wow, something happened in 2019 and they're trying to pass it off as news.
We introduce you.
It's pretty much, we want the takeover story to be real. We really do. But how many times have we come across potential takeover bids, and then whenever the media say, oh, the next 24, 48 hours are going to be really crucial here, and all of a sudden all potential just goes quiet, ever so quiet, too quiet. And it's heartbreaking. This has been no exception. So it just feels like the Wall Street Journal, of course not to name any names, but it seems like, the Wall Street Journal.
Well, they're quite a reputable brand over in New York. Obviously, we've been there.
They are.
That was great summer last year, wasn't it? Sorry to go off topic.
It was. But yes, they are trying to keep this alive, because you never know. They might still think that there is some truth in it, but to try and keep the readers engaged with the story, they want to try and keep some continuity to the story. So I think that just might be a bit of a plan to try and do that, really. And for me, I don't really buy it.
Even if the takeover, let's just say it is true. Let's flip it on two ways. Yeah, let's just go along with it and say it is true. If it is true, going quiet, I believe, for me, that's a good thing. Are you in the same boat? Or are you the one who thinks no news is bad news?
It can be. I do fall into that category of no news is not good news. I mean, I'm a journalist.
Yes, Rob is a qualified journalist, everyone.
No news is not good news, contrary to the popular saying. We get given a plethora of updates over the course of a good 24 hours, and then all of a sudden, for the next 5 days, it goes quiet, and all of a sudden, nah.
Deja vu.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
So let's just say it isn't true, because most of the fan base, probably 90%, don't believe that it is true. So it's a fake takeover then. We'll flip it on the coin. It's gone quiet, and there's little stories like the Carla de Bello approaching the Saudis is the only... Because they can't run that story again, can they?
Oh yeah. You can't regurgitate the same news. With news, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep it new. Trying to regurgitate the same news over and over again is not good journalism.
I was drinking my coffee. Apologies. And then, obviously, Eddie Hearn was here the other day promoting the Lewis Ritson fight. It was good luck to Lewis in April at the arena, and he was over at Gateshead, and he was asked the question, of course, about his dad. Obviously, his dad, Barry, is involved with darts. Used to be Leyton Orient chairman. Yeah. Didn't want West Ham moving next to their territory, of course. I remember that battle going on. Barry obviously involved in boxing, and Eddie's now matchroom. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. He giggled it off, and that tells you, because Eddie Hearn likes to play the media along. Of course he does, because he's a promoter. That's his job. Yeah. But even him, he ruled it out himself, saying it's absolute rubbish. I don't know if that was a great accent or not. Let me know. Apologies if you're offended by my Cockney. But he was laughing. He laughed it off.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say on the matter.
Pretty much, yeah. It is. What happened.
It is. He literally just, you know what it is. Yeah. He just said, you know what? There's no way. My dad has introduced the Saudis to Newcastle United. You've seen the funny side of that, and with that as well, I think you're talking about will stay on the media before we have a quick ad break.
If you've ever seen The Secret Millionaire before, as a programme was on about 10 years ago, you never know who has a bottomless pit of pockets and of cash or anything, unless you look at their sort of lifestyle or anything. There's no way that you could look at someone at face value and say, oh, he's got a bottomless pit of cash.
Well, he laughs it off, so that just tells you its old story. And I think with this is that they're very much clutching the straws, because yes, Barry Hearn, yes, Anthony Joshua has had links with the Crown Prince fighting over there, boxing over there. Barry Hearn has had some dealings with Saudis. I think this is not the first time we'll see this. I think we'll see a lot more of this happening. Anybody who has links to the Far East, I think there'll be a couple more links before this story completely goes flat for us. We're going to take an ad break. 20 minutes in, we've got a lovely song for you if you listen to Nova Radio. If you are watching on YouTube, we are just carrying on.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
The second part of this section is some more Newcastle news. We're going to get our reaction from the under-23 game, and we're going to debate Sam's team from the combined 11 which he put out the other day. How many Newcastle players would get in that combined 11? And if you're watching us on this premiere, get your team in. I want to touch upon about this stat. There's a lot of negativity going around about how Newcastle play at the minute. It's one of them, innit? Do you want to play well and get beat, or do you want to play ugly and win? For me, we talked off camera before that it's where you are in the league. It's the scoreline at the end of 90 minutes. It doesn't matter if you've had 20%, 30% or 40% possession. Yeah. If you're winning or you've picked up a point, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Of course. You go into a game and have a game plan. I mean, if you go into a game against Manchester City and with a game plan of trying to dominate them, trying to dominate a game in Manchester City with 70% possession, you're going to lose. You're going to be on the back end of a 10-0 hammering if you're going to try and do that against a team like Man City. This is the Premier League. We are in with, I don't like this term, but the big boys. We are up there with the big boys. We're in the same division as that so-called top six. So we're going to have to play ugly in order to try and scrounge out the results that we need.
I think what's important is, obviously Bruce has said that the players are so drilled into them that they have to play this wing-back system. But you know, if you compare Bruce's side to Rafa's side last season, Bruce has saint-maximin, which is a different type of player to Perez. Yeah. Saint-maximin wants to do it on his own. Perez, maybe to some extent, Perez grafts. He's a totally different player, more of a technical player. Joe Linton's come in, different to Rondon. Granted, Rondon's a lot better. Joe Linton's had time to progress, and you would think Newcastle will go on and strengthen again in the summer, whether that's Bruce's signings or the scouting team, whatever. But when you compare the two sides, it's surely you can't keep playing this way, because surely the stats read in Europe's top 5 leagues before this weekend games, Newcastle have an average 39.4% average possession, which is the poorest. I think it's Augsburg who are actually second. I think Atalanta are in there. Burnley are in the top 5. That doesn't really surprise me.
Augsburg, 12th in the Bundesliga.
Newcastle the same position?
Yeah, arguably Augsburg, very similar team to us in terms of a par. Roger Schmidt as well, very similar style to Steve Bruce. It's all about trying to play ugly. I mean, Roger Schmidt's never been right up there, neither has Steve Bruce as a manager. They've never been right up there, but they are good, like consistently up there in the top half, in the top flight of their respective countries. In Roger Schmidt's case, of course, the Bundesliga. He's been there with Mainz. I mean, he kept a Bundesliga 2 bound Mainz up for several seasons. He didn't quite work out for him at Wolfsburg, but then he was under very difficult circumstances there. But under Augsburg, he's really worked, I wouldn't say wonders, but he's kept a second tier quality side up and away from the relegation zone. Steve Bruce has arguably done the same with Newcastle.
I think the other question that fans have is, surely this will catch up with Newcastle eventually. You can't keep playing that kind of football, and eventually we talk about Southampton selling all their best players throughout the years and always down the bottom. Yeah. You might catch them up one day. Will this catch up if we don't improve or change or have a plan B? Will this catch up with her?
Cannot possibly deny that we've seen it in the cases of so many other teams before. It happened with Aston Villa. It happened with Sunderland. So history has shown that it can happen. These sort of things can really catch up to you and bite you on the backside. It really can be painful if you're not too careful. Then things can really do go wrong.
For me, I just, as I say earlier, I think the scoreline, I just care about that, because we were really sound like Jonathan Ross there. We were really worried about Steve Bruce coming in the summer, and majority of Newcastle fans would have said just stay up. Let's just stay up. Let's just try and get through, because I think most Newcastle fans will probably say that Steve Bruce isn't here for the long run. Let's just stay up. But
as soon as Steve Bruce came in and got the job, how many people, not just Newcastle fans, how many people expected us to finish bottom of the table?
If it wasn't bottom, it was definitely in the bottom 3, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, without doubt, yeah.
And I think, to be credit, the possession stat is poor. It's the weakest in the 5 European leagues. But Steve Bruce currently has us sitting in mid-table. Before this weekend games, level with Arsenal. I mean, He's done a great job, and
playing that style of play, it might not get the best out of the players like Joe Linton, like we get to see the best out of him. It might not even get the best out of Saint-Maximin, because he's someone who loves to have the ball at his feet a lot of the time. He loves to sort of try and dominate the play. So, we have a team
Just to go on that, you've made a good point there. Because he doesn't get the ball as much as what he would in a top 6, 7, 8 team, do you feel when he has the ball, he wants to have it longer?
Yeah, I think that's arguably true. Yeah.
Because he's not getting enough of it, and obviously we know Almiron graphs really hard, and I think graphs harder than Alan Saint-Maximin, but I think ASM has more individual talent than Miggy. If you don't agree on that, let us know.
ASM makes it look easy.
Yeah, he just glides and
yeah.
Whereas Almiron's more of a graft and his head down. But that's an interesting stat on that, and I think for me, I think it would, if we kept doing that, I think it would catch up with us. And I think players will want to have the ball a lot more expressed, and I think Newcastle do need some more buys in the summer, but Steve Bruce has done a great job at this current moment. Who's to say we might go on 5 or 6 games where we might lose and be right in the mix again, but currently at the time of this recording he's done a great job and probably surprised everyone. I didn't expect him to do so well. Speaking of one of his signings, the very few that he has been allowed, because a lot of the signings weren't really his. Obviously Joe Linton, Alan Saint-Maximin, but I believe generally that he had an influence on bringing Andy Carroll in. There's a report going around, and I think it's the Guardian, if I am to be misquoted, apologies. Andy Carroll's only on 20 grand a week. Are you surprised by that?
Well, people were wanting him in. Before we signed him up, people were wanting him in because he got released by West Ham in the summer, didn't he? And people were wanting him in on condition that it was a pay-as-you-play contract, an ad hoc basis. So I think 20 grand a week, it's one of the lower/middle earners at the club. Certainly puts him above the reserve side, but certainly as far as the first team goes, certainly one of the lower earners, which I think would be fair enough considering how injury prone he has been throughout his career.
So it's not a pay-as-you-play. They're saying that he literally has that set wage of 20,000. However, Rob,
there are conditions, aren't there?
When he starts, that figure jumps massively, assuming the Guardian are correct, to a whopping 75,000 a week if he starts a game. Now, granted, he hasn't started many. I think he's only started 2 or 3. One then. Which Sheffield United he started, didn't he?
Sheffield United.
Because I remember that was a great. We talked about the bad football. That was disgusting football by Newcastle, but we'll come away and win. 75k, but there's probably, we'll talk about if he comes off the bench, he's paid an extra 15k a week, which is probably, it's not as much as a play as you go, but it's more of a set wage going up with conditions, and there's talk that Bruce wants to keep him. Would you keep Andy Carroll on for another season?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I know his age isn't the best in terms of, we have seen the best of Andy Carroll. I can't see him trying to reignite that form where he used to be really good whenever he did play on those rare occasions. But he's a really good backup to have. He's a really good utility player, in my view.
I think also gives you a different option because he's very. When you compare him to Joe Linton, they are very two powerful men. Don't get me wrong, but I think Carroll is more designed for holding the ball up, get in your face.
He's a good impact sub, isn't he? We saw the best of that against Southampton back in December. Joe Linton came off when the score was 1-0 Southampton. And then Southampton,
causes he's got 3 assists.
Ralph Hasenhüttl was so wound up by that. They bring a striker that's 10 foot tall.
Well, he causes a massive chaotic in the box. Get me words out, Lee. Come on, you can do this. And he's got 3 assists. And for me, you should have won as a penalty when Lee Mason was in charge for Everton. That was a shocking decision. Lee Mason's obviously in charge of Newcastle this weekend, but that was a penalty. But he just causes havoc. And having that even from the bench, I would personally as well. I would have him on for another season. He's not going to bang you 5 to 10 goals anymore. You might chip in with the 1 or 2, but I don't think he'll ever be first choice. But that's a hell of a weapon, and I call him a weapon.
Yeah.
He is a weapon to bring off the bench. But not only that, have you noticed from defensive corners, he wins a lot of them defensively as well.
Yeah.
I remember when Shearer used to, and obviously Andy Carroll is a lot more taller and powerful than Shearer, and he wins so many, clearing them away.
Yeah, he's never going to be that main striker, first choice, every single week sort of player again, sadly, but like you say, great impact sub, and that's what you really want when you need the game to burst into life in your favour. You need that impact sub, and he provides that.
So we're both in agreement. We're doing well today, aren't we? We're agreeing on quite a lot of stuff. Yeah, this is quite a rarity. We normally have a panel. Obviously, there's normally 4 of us. Don't get us wrong.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio North East.
Right, and so speaking of the under-23s, I said we'll come back to them. And me and Rob attended the under-23 derby, Newcastle versus Sunderland. Sunderland, of course, have lost 15 out of 16. They're not doing very well this season, a bit like the first team. But yeah, it's great that we've got some sort of time with a derby, and this is the closest thing that we're going to get. This is our reaction to outside the ground. Rob, what were your initial thoughts coming into the game first?
Well, of course, Sunderland's track record going into this game, it's terrible.
Expected us to win that.
It's the worst of the worst. 16 from 17 now.
It is now, yeah.
It is now. 15 from defeats in the last 16 going into this one. To be honest, tonight I just expected this one to be just a case of how many.
And it was comfortable to some extent. Sunderland looked threatening on the attack. I can only really recall a real chance for Sunderland in the second half where Turner's 1-1, and really that was when we were 1-0 up, and that was probably a crucial save. But apart from that we got off to the flyer very early on. Tom Allen, that man, he just can't stop scoring, can he?
Aye, terrific lad. Really pleased for him when he made his first team debut here just about a month ago against Rochdale, and yeah, he's followed that up. He's realised that he can be knocking on the door of the first team now, and I think he realises that, so he's stepped up big time. I think in the under-23s,
he's getting in the box and he's breaking through right behind, and he scores.
Braver as well.
He was at the back post, and he has a tap in. Newcastle 1-0 up. We dominated possession. It took a long time to kill the game off.
Yeah,
a long time. We had several of chances. I remember Young having a shot, Tory in that first half. Sorensen didn't get much of a look in, but in the second half he did. He had a couple of chances. Took a while to get that second goal. It came and we went 2-0 up. Killed the game off. It was like, how then can we go and get 3 or 4? But for me, I think the quality from probably both sides, more so Sunderland, they couldn't string a pass together, could they?
Exactly. I think for entertainment value, this has got to be one of the worst matches I've ever been to. I know.
Was that bad?
Yeah. I think this is certainly on a par with when we drew 0-0 against Brighton in December 2017.
Wow.
It really is on a par with that, because the passing was terrible. And when that is terrible, everything else pretty much follows as terrible. Yeah,
good to see Yannick Toure score again. He's now hit a bit of form, obviously, with the close header put with 2-0 up. But yeah, the game was dead and buried, and Newcastle went on to win that. And they're getting closer to the playoffs. Now Ben Dawson, we talked about him several times now on the radio show. Newcastle getting edging closer, sorry if I can get my words out, to 5th place. Over on the main one, Newcastle Fans TV, we've done the last word with the lineups and in-game clips, so go and head over to the main channel if you haven't already. And there you have it. That was our reaction of playing Sunderland. Let us know what you think of that. Obviously Sunderland not doing very well, so it's no surprise to see Newcastle play well there. Let's talk about, before we wrap up, we're going to talk about a combined 11. How many, because obviously we're at the Arsenal game, as I've touched upon earlier. This has been filmed before Sunday. And how many Newcastle players would get in that Arsenal team now, because Arsenal, they're not the team what they once were. Let's see what Sam said about his combined 11. Take it over, Sam.
Formation for my combined 11 is my personal favourite, 4-2-3-1. And straight away, in goals, it's a tricky call, but I'm going with Dubravka. I do quite like Leno at Arsenal, but the amount of times Dubravka has got us out of jail this season, he deserves to be in the sticks for this one. Start on the right hand side of the defence, so right back, I'm going with Hector Bellerin. I actually quite like Bellerin. I think his injuries have put pay to his progression somewhat, and with the defence Arsenal have had down the years, he's never going to look his best. So I think if he can stay injury free, he can really turn into one of the best right backs in the league. Whether that will happen, time will tell. Centre back partnership, I've gone for the 2 strongest out and out defenders in my opinion, which are both Newcastle players. and they are Florian Lejeune and Jamal Lascelles. Obviously, in our first season back in the Prem, we saw them play in this system under Rafa Benitez, and they looked solid as anything, if you ask me. Left back, I've gone for Danny Rose. Now, I know we've not seen him in a Newcastle shirt for more than 10 minutes. I mean, essentially, it's Rose versus Kolasinac, emergence of Chilwell now. He's no longer England's first choice left back, but he was for a many number of years. So, from a pedigree standpoint, I think Rose has got the edge out of the two. I'm playing a back four as well. I don't think that'll suit the likes of Richie, so that's why I've gone for Danny Rose. Sitting in front of the defence, the two I've gone for in midfield. Now, I've got to admit I struggled with this one. The first one I've gone for is Torreira of Arsenal. I think he's a cracking little player. He's not kicked on as expected this season. However, that's probably down to Arsenal's form in general, really, and the mess of a season that they've had under Emery, then Ljungberg, and now Arteta. Alongside Torreira, do you go for Shelvey, who's obviously Newcastle's top scorer this season? Do you go for Isaac Hayden, who most would agree is probably first choice in Newcastle's midfield? Do you go for one of the Longstaffs? Do you go for Granit Xhaka? I've gone for Guendouzi, purely because he's touted as a future Arsenal captain. He's started really well to his Arsenal career in difficult circumstances. Obviously, the team's not been performing as expected. And to be honest, would a John Joe Shelvey attract interest from Arsenal in the transfer market? Or, you know, obviously Hayden started at Arsenal. I can't see any of our midfielders getting into an Arsenal side anytime soon, so that's why I've gone for Guendouzi. On my right wing, I've gone for ASM, the Gucci man himself. The guy makes stuff happen. A live wire, he's electric. We've got to keep him fit, because he will be the difference between finishing 16th, 17th, hopefully not lower, or 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. We need to keep him fit. He's the key going forward. If he finds consistency and an end product to his game, then my word, we have a proper player on our hands. In the number 10 role, behind the striker, I've gone for Mesut Ozil. Now, this guy obviously divides opinion and can be a bit of a controversial figure, but the guy's won pretty much everything there is to win. On his day, he's one hell of a player, and he always seems to play well against us, which is obviously a bit of a concern for Sunday. Hopefully he has an absolute stinker. But he gets the number 10 role in my combined 11. Now, on the left-hand side, I've actually written down Martinelli, who's obviously come to prominence this season. The guy's got 10 goals already for Arsenal this season, which is incredible for the kid. He looks a real prospect. He can play on the left and as a central striker, which can be said for Aubameyang, which is my final pick. So them two can interchange. Aubameyang, we all know about him. What would have been had we have actually signed him in 2011 when we were interested in him. Wonderful player, wonderful striker, 16 goals this season, 25 goals this season, no bother. Hopefully we can keep him quiet on Sunday. There was arguments for putting obviously Lacazette. We haven't seen the best of Nicola Pepe yet in an Arsenal shirt. And of course Almiron, who I'm a big fan of, don't get me wrong. He just needs to, well, he doesn't get in the team over the likes of Mesut Ozil and Martinelli, who's had a great start to his career. So there you have it.
Right, thank you very much. So you've got to play, the condition is you have to play Sam's formation. You can't have a 3-5-2 or a 5-4-1. You have to have a 4-2-3-1 formation like Sam. We're going to try and agree, probably disagree a few times as well. He's went with Martin Dubravka in goal over Leno. I would go along with that.
Yes, well, I think I'll also continue the Sam voice as well. Well, I'm at it. It's a good impression.
He's got to hate you.
I know. I do apologise, Sam. It's a great video.
Martin Dubrovka. Sorry, Sam. I know he's not a Brummy, but he's from near there. We love you, Sam. Yeah, we're both Dubravka easy. Leno's come in and obviously replaced Czech, but nah.
He's not stepped up to the plate. I mean, Czech was on his way out in the latter years of his career, so he is an upgrade on that front. Upgrade to Czech on that front, but Leno, he's just nowhere near. He's just not the Jens Lehmann that Arsenal fans really want back in goal.
Someone crazy.
Yeah, someone crazy that'll keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, Hasselhoff, as I used to call him, because he looks like him. Bellerin at right back.
Yeah, I was.
You wouldn't put any of your other Newcastle players right back, would you?
I was literally just thinking that, because Bellerin, he's a bit of a weak link in Arsenal's team, but then of course when you flip it to the other side and look at our team. Right wing back is the weak link in our team. I mean, we haven't seen much of Valentino Lozano, have we?
Well, would you put Lazaro right back though? You wouldn't, would you?
I'd be open to it.
We haven't seen enough of him, but would you change it? I would probably go along with him and say Hector Bellerin.
Yeah, he's one of those that he typifies a lot of Premier League footballers nowadays. Very good athletes. Not necessarily good footballers.
Lightning quick, and
yeah, lightning quick, great runner, great stamina, but as a footballer, where's the technical ability? I know a controversial opinion. I know people will disagree with me.
Not a fan of AFTV either, is he?
No.
All right, then let's move on to the two centre backs. He's gone with two Newcastle ones: Jamal Lascelles and Florian Lejeune. Interesting one. I think the Lejeune one stands out more than Lascelles, because Lejeune's had a poor season. I know he's been injured, but yes, he was a hero at Everton, don't get me wrong. But I think he's been poor for me. I wouldn't play Florian Lejeune. I'd probably go with Lascelles, but when you look at Arsenal centre-backs, you've got Socrates is probably their best one.
Yeah.
Is he?
David Luiz.
No, he's too
error prone.
Yes, I know.
He's error prone, but that craziness, I just love that sort of character.
I'll probably play him further forward, but I think you are going to pick Newcastle centre-backs, yeah. I would say Lascelles, I'll go along with that. This season, on form, Lascelles hasn't done much wrong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go Florian Lejeune for me. I think he's done, in particular, what was that game where he gave the 2 goals away when we got beat, man? What was it? You give one of them passed across the box. I'm trying to think, it's got off my top of your head.
United.
There was a home game we got beat. Lejeune was all over the place. I'm sure it was recently. Rob will come back to that. Correct us in the comments, but he cost for 2 goals.
It'll come to me later. Yeah.
Yeah, they were in the first half towards the Gallagher. And then who would you go with then?
Leicester.
Leicester, that was it. Yeah, it was, because Madison. Yeah, right. I'll go Lascelles. I'll go Kieran Clark.
Okay, Kieran Clark, when he does play,
has he ever done anything wrong?
He's done very little wrong. I mean, he is one of the most reliable centre-backs we have. Thing is, does he play so often enough for you to trust him?
Yes.
All right, okay. Yeah.
I think, for me, I'll say this now, so far this season, he's a shortlist for player of the season. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he'll be in the top 6 or 7 players.
Difficult to argue with that. Of course, Lejeune, he's sort of clawed his way back into our good books. It absolutely baffled me when, just before that Everton game, people were sort of wanting him to be sold in January, which was absolutely awful.
I think he played too many games and it caught up with him, and he cost when they had to be taken out the firing line. For me, I'm going to say Lascelles and Kieran Clark.
Yeah, that's Lascelles definitely, because you want that aspect of leadership in our team.
I love Fabian Schär, everyone knows this, but I think he hasn't had as good as last season.
No, he's not had the same effect, but I would still put him over.
Federico Fernandez, a shout?
Again, very poor season, just like Lejeune. Yeah, very poor season.
I have to disagree. I think he's had a good season. I think he's had odd 1 or 2 poor games, but let them at home decide. Lascelles and Clark, who are you going for?
Lascelles and probably David Luiz.
David Luiz gets in Rob's team. Right, you can now slate Rob as much as you like. People are listening. I hope you haven't crashed your car.
I like David Luiz. I just
hope the people who are driving up that A1 right now haven't gone off the road or swearing at the radio right now. Right, yeah. Let's move on. Left back, he's gone with Danny Rose. Matt Ritchie can't really play left wing back, yes, but he's gone for Rose because of overall quality, not so much what he's done with Newcastle this season. Arsenal, you look at, they're not really strong there. You've got a lot of people who fill in at left wing back or left back for them as well, but in terms of overall, I would say Danny Rose as well.
Yeah, since Rose came into the club, of course, he was eligible for ineligible. Sorry for the
FA Cup.
Yeah, for the FA Cup game. A lot of questions have arisen of where do you play Ritchie now, because you don't want him to play on the bench. You want him there on the starting 11. The question is, Rose, yes, I think he has that little bit more quality and a bit more experience at that left back position. Ritchie, I suppose it remains to be seen. We will see over the coming games.
It's a great option. You can play Ritchie anyway now and play him up further.
Pretty much.
It gives Bruce a lot more options. So we'll both agree on that.
Yeah, Ritchie would play in goal if he was asked.
Yeah, we won't have him in goal though, don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
Danny Rose makes our left back, we'll agree on Sam. Interesting, the two Holden Arsenal midfielders. I don't agree on that. He's gone for Guendouzi and Torreira. Bit of bite with Torreira, Guendouzi more of an overall player, but Isaac Hayden for me, he's got to get on that side.
Definitely. I've seen Guendouzi a lot this season and last season, and I just don't like him as a player.
He's a young lad. I think he'll get better. And now he's just been capped for France, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a player he's got potential. He's shown that he can have potential, but he's still very error prone for me.
That's because he's young and experienced, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but I think he gets a lot more credit than he deserves. I think no one seems to really highlight his mistakes, which have been quite costly for Arsenal this season.
For me, I wouldn't have none of those two Arsenal players there.
Torreira, I can see what Sam's gone with.
He's got better since under Arteta.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. He was really struggling under Emery, but Guendouzi should be nowhere near that combined 11.
We're both going to say Isaac Hayden. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Who plays alongside him though for you?
Torreira.
I would probably say, based overall this season, for the first probably 3 months, I would say Shelvey. For the first 3 months, because Shelvey was getting goals and he's hit a bit of form. I think Shelvey's done more than Torreira for me personally. And then the three behind the striker, he's got a Newcastle player in there, Alan Saint-Maximin.
Yes, I suppose that would have been a toss-up. To be honest, that sort of line of three where you've got the wingers and the cam position, I'd have said ASM and Miguel Almiron. Of course, we'll get onto the left side of that, but I'd say, yeah, Miguel and ASM should be there.
So Almiron, or
in place of Martinelli.
So Sam went for people that are listening, he went for Alan Saint-Maximin, Ozil in the 10, Martinelli out on the left. Obviously he can play up top, of course, as well. I would have Alan Saint-Maximin. I wouldn't have Mesut Ozil. I think he's past it. I don't think he's a player that he once was.
He's past it. He gets a lot of assists, doesn't he? So he's past it.
You had to get that put in there somewhere. Yes, apologies, Paul, if you're listening. Kyle, sorry. And Martinelli. See if you're playing in number 10.
Martinelli's got the form. He's shown that
he's got over 10 goals, hasn't
he? Yeah, albeit mostly through the Europa
League. You could be sneaky and play Aubameyang over at the left. Because where does Lacazette? Well, he's played there a couple of times for Arsenal, but where do you put Lacazette? Lacazette's better than Joe Linton.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
So we're having Aubameyang up top. Is that a guarantee that you're not moving him?
Thing is, if you shift Aubameyang over to the wing, you've got a question. Of course, Lacazette would come into that position, but I like Aubameyang up top. Yeah. He's a top-class striker, a world-class striker, and I think Arsenal are very, very lucky to have him. Very, very lucky that he didn't leave in January. They can consider themselves really lucky on that.
He's the captain, but he's 31 now. Is he getting 31?
31, yeah.
He'll miss his sell-on value shortly.
I know, but he's still got that quality.
Oh, he's brilliant.
He's showing no sign of stopping on that front.
Aubameyang has to be up top then.
Oh yeah, it has to be up top. So if you draft him over to anywhere else on the pitch, all of a sudden it just looks a considerably weaker side, even if you're going to put Lacazette in there.
So who's your three? So you're going for Alan Saint-Maximin, Miggy, and who?
Ozil. I know. I see what you mean about he's passing it and everything, but he's an assist king.
See, I'd rather have Miggy rather than Ozil, because at least I know Almiron will graft. Ozil's like a luxury player. You have to work around him. For me, he doesn't graft hard enough. When he got the ball, yes, Ozil by quite easily.
Doesn't do much in the way of work, but you give him the ball and he does set someone up.
Does this formation have to work? Can we allow the likes of Ozil, ESM, Miggy, Aubameyang to play? And when I say play, allowed to play.
I think it's certainly a system. The 4-2-3-1 is certainly a system that focuses a lot on the line of three behind the striker. There's a lot of onus on them.
I would have ASM, Miggy. I will be sneaky and I'll go Aubameyang out on the left, interchanging. I'm being a bit sneaky here with Lacazette up top. I'm going to do that to make that a bit more stronger. Rob, you're going for ASM, Ozil and Miggy. Miggy, yeah. And Aubameyang up top. And that is our 11, combined 11 against Sam's, of course. The reason why we're doing this, we're running out of content ideas for you. That's why.
Been a quiet week, hasn't it?
It has been a quiet week, and obviously we're down London, as I touch upon as well. So we must apologise, of course, we're not there for the full 2-hour slot, hence why we've jumped together on here for you to try and get you something out at 6 p.m. on the YouTube channel and across Nova Radio. We're going to hand over to Nova Radio to carry on if you're listening on 102.5 FM, and if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching this different kind of video. Stay tuned, because we've got myself, Sam, Owen, Fordy, Sam's dad, everyone, loads of people down the Emirates with all the videos coming up tonight, so stay tuned to the channel. Take care everyone, bye bye.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.